So I want to start off our next panel today with Michael Liebowitz, CEO of Douglas Elliman, and Guy Gall, co-founder and CEO of Side. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So Michael was up here last year with Amir, our publisher, and he had just started his tenure at Elliman, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks prior. He'd gotten like 3 hours of sleep a night. This is after Howard Lorber left. And, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty about what was going to happen with Elliman. It was a time of, I think you'd call it crisis. And so Amir really tried to grill Michael. And Michael put on one of the more impressive performances I've seen on stage. He really pushed back on Amir, and Amir got really tired about halfway through the panel, which I've never seen
He may have
happen
been the
before.
first person to ever defeat Amir.
Exactly. It was a performance. And so hopefully that doesn't happen to me on stage. But there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. Michael and Guy are competitors with somewhat different business models. Elliman's huge in Miami and New York, and if you look at real trends, they're 6th biggest in the country. Gal's Side is 9th biggest in the country. You know, especially impressive considering he started in 2017. He's got, what, 500 brokerages under your umbrella?
Yeah, about over 500 brokerages and 5,000 agents across them.
Yeah.
But actually very similar to Douglas Elliman. Side and Douglas Elliman have the distinct privilege to be 1 and 2 in terms of highest production per agent in the country.
Yeah, we'll get into that with very different business models because Side is the model of backing up the brokers so they can do the selling and they deal with all the back end stuff. But I want to talk about that and also the seismic merger in the residential world. Compass and Anywhere Real Estate, number 1 and 2, coming together. And the real question is, what's best for the consumer out there? What's best for the real estate industry? Look at private listings and also, how much responsibility a firm has in bringing on agents and vetting them and that sort of thing. So I want to start off with the most recent news. Michael, you just sold off Elliman's property management division for $85 million. Why that move?
It was just it was a price I couldn't say no to.
Okay.
One of those. I mean, we really top-ticked that price. And listen, with Mamdani coming in, I'm not really being political, but we were in the property management business. It was a big business, and there's a lot of issues with labor law in New York that I don't think a lot of people realize. And I think with that administration, it's going to be more difficult. So it was really, it kind of lined up, between the Anywhere and Compass merger, between what was going on in New York, between getting, a really top-tick price, it made a lot of sense for us. We really want to be a pure play real estate brokerage firm, asset light, and that business was a big asset, and we got a lot of money for it.
That's a heavy, labor-intensive type of business.
Right. Yeah.
Was that an unsolicited offer, or did you guys go out and look for stuff?
They were kind of trolling that business for a while. So I was on the board before I became CEO, and they were interested in it. Back then, it was a lower price. And when they called, I threw out the number, said, if you want it, this is the bid you got to hit.
Go for it.
And they hit it. So it worked.
So the big question, which everybody's been asking about Elliman, there were rumors of Anywhere coming over before and looking at a takeover bid for $4 a share. But you said Elliman is not for sale.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely not for sale. I don't even think about that thought. Right? In my mind, I'm waking up every day looking at what the future looks like. We're public, so we get inbound offers. The ones in the past were inbound to us. We didn't call anybody. So yeah, that was totally their doing, not us.
Yeah.
And there are a few out there that have tried to buy Douglas Elliman for a while, but the company's absolutely not for sale. We're very focused on our international growth plan and our domestic plan, and I've never been more excited about the company than I am today. So
I mean, it would be hard to say no to a $500 million, billion-dollar deal. I mean, so there has to be
$500 million is only like $4 a share or something. So I wouldn't take $500
Okay,
million.
well, you turned down 4 already.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
You forgot to congratulate him for their expansion into France.
I know. I was getting to that. So
I needed an excuse to go to Europe.
Yeah, right.
So,
right.
But yeah, no, we just signed a deal with some great guys that actually were at Knight Frank. It's going to be 14 offices through Monaco and France. All the high-end spots. Going to be Courchevel, Machèvre, Provence. Paris is coming soon. We did something in St. Bart's, in Monaco. And we're really excited about that. But again, we're staying in the high end. We're not looking to be in places that aren't in the places that connect the rest of the company.
And this is asset light too. This is going out and doing franchise agreements and
They're not even, they're not franchise. They're actually licensing deals.
Licensing.
So they're totally asset light. We get paid
Even
for our
more.
brand. We get paid for services that we're going to provide. They're long-term deals, so there's a revenue stream attached to them. We're not going in and spending a fortune of money on offices and encumbering ourselves. So it's a very lean asset light model that we'll get paid for our global brand, and that's the way we want to do it.
So it's all about leveraging the brand, really.
All about leveraging the brand and the services that we could provide to them that they don't get now. And if they don't want them, they don't have to take them. If they want them, they can a la carte them from us.
Right, right. And Guy, let's talk about your business model inside. You know, how have you been growing that business over the last couple of years? How has the service evolved? I think, you know, some people have maybe a harder time wrapping their head around what exactly Side does for the broker.
Yeah, I mean, Side's coming up on 9 years of existing as a company, and it's amazing to me that nearly a decade in, people still don't really understand what we do. But in lots of ways, it's by design, because Side is the world's first and only invisible brokerage. So we don't actually put our name, our brand on signs. You will never see them in agent contracts. We are the broker. We do take responsibility for everything brokerage related, and we do a really amazing job conveying transactions, contract to close for very sophisticated, top producing agents, teams, independents. But we are a silent partner to them all. If tomorrow, which is not going to happen, we were to say, okay, let's put our name on all the signs, people would wake up and be like, wow, where did this come from? Because we're closing over $25 billion a year in collaboration with these incredible agents. But that's been the day zero vision for us. We've never wavered. We've built the company with a great deal of discipline up until today, this point. And that's the past of Side. That's going to be the future of it. We just want to help more people, more agents own the businesses they're already operating without them having to take brokerage responsibility, create more independent brands, more boutique experiences, because our belief is that real estate is best served when it's boutique and focused and specialized, not one size fits all, sort of generalized quantity approach. It's better as a quality approach.
Yeah. And just kind of boots on the ground. So, I mean, how that translates is, and I might have the numbers slightly off here because I might be old, but you have about 400 employees that are serving the back end for all these companies, and then
a little less than that,
Okay.
right? It's a big centralized support team and staff of brokers and lawyers and technical folks, like engineers, et cetera, that provide all the support for the agents on the ground, both with boots on the ground in their communities and through our proprietary software, which is like brokerage in your pocket. Very different approach, very one of a kind in market, not particularly motivated by trying to become, we're not here to become the largest brokerage in the world with the most agents. That's not how we think about our business. We just want to help great agents be in business for themselves.
Right. And kind of the business model there is you get, and I'm sure you're gonna say this varies, but the 90-10 split, and then you have certain fees for different services.
Yeah, we keep it really simple. Side is 3 to 10% of an agent's gross commission income, depending on their volumes, and that's it. There's not much more to it than that.
Yeah. Michael, care to comment on splits at Elliman? What is the average split compared to Guy's Side?
I mean, they're different for obviously each deal in each region, but I think Guy's business is interesting. I think that from an entrepreneurial perspective, I think there's a place for every model, right? Like for us, we have a new development business that brings a lot of value to the agents. We feel that our global brand is something people want. We just came off a big event in Las Vegas, that kind of creates a great feeling of community within the agents.
Right.
There's a lot of sharing of ideas for us. So that's what we feel we bring to the table, for the agent. Guy's model is much more, their own brand. That's what they want to build, and I think it's a choice. I think what he's doing is great. Me and him actually know each other well. We talk, and
Right.
I think what they're doing is great. And I think for the agent or the team, you decide what you want, right? And that's the choice.
I'll complicate this debate by saying I actually love what Douglas Elliman does because it's not one size fits all, right? It's very measured and focused. They know what they want to do and they do it really well, and they know what they don't want to do and they don't do it at all, and they're an amazing independent company with a very strong brand. They're, in contrast to, say, some other brokerage models today that are very quantity driven, where maybe there's 100,000 agents there, but on average they're closing less.
300,000.
What's that?
Or 300,000.
300,000.
Contrast
At Douglas, or
Your
300,000.
Right,
like
big firms.
Yeah, like closing maybe like one deal a year on average. That's not what Douglas Elliman is, right? Douglas Elliman is a place where really great agents do business really well.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it's also about brand for both you guys, but just in different ways. And it sounds like you're making a move, to being more asset light, which is interesting. I mean, overall with Elliman, I think you guys had a $25 million loss in the most recent quarter, but on the flip side, you have increased the share price a bunch over the last year. And, a lot of the new initiatives you were talking about rolling out, you have mortgage, business, AI, the international expansion. So, we'll get to some of those later. But I want to talk for a second about, the bombshell deal that, really took the industry by storm.
Yes, please.
And Compass. What, you've had some interesting statements about both, both of you had some interesting statements about that. I think, Michael, the most interesting one that you've talked about to me is just, the independence of these brands. What do you think is going to happen if you're, one of the brokers out there? Is it broker beware, in terms of what's coming up, potentially? In terms of the brands being a fiction, that they won't be some consolidation there?
Yeah, listen, I'm a very objective person, okay? And, you don't do a deal and take two large companies and put them together and not get operating efficiencies and brand efficiencies. You don't have to be that smart to figure that one out,
Yeah.
okay? So when somebody basically says, hey, we're gonna do this deal, we're gonna combine them, and nothing is gonna change, you better kind of scratch your head and say, well, then how are you gonna make the numbers work, right? They've got to get $300 million of cost cuts initially in the first year. You're not gonna do that by leaving everything the same, right? It's just not reality. The one thing that I've learned since I've become the CEO of Douglas Elliman is these are very difficult businesses to integrate, right? The second you start taking things away from agents, there's no barrier to leave. You can just basically get up, leave, and go to another firm. Obviously, you have some clawbacks and all that.
Yeah.
So ultimately, taking two behemoths and trying to combine them, cut $300 million of expenses, those are going to be services, those are going to be people, those are going to be managers that are all going to come out of that. So there's going to be disruption, right? And it's going to be 2 years of it. That's just reality. That's not me, being in a competitive, nature and thinking that there's going to be a lot of things that come off the tree that we're going to grab and that's going to benefit us. It will.
Yeah.
But it's just the reality of what happens. Anytime you do a deal, you have to realize you're going to lose pieces of that deal after it's done.
Yeah. And just the idea of being an agent and being like, this isn't what I signed up for necessarily.
Yeah, but contrary to your belief, Michael, it's incredibly hard for our top agent at Compass today to leave. It's a very costly proposition for them because they are all subject to incentive split clawbacks to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, Compass is sophisticated. They made sure they had really meaningful clawbacks in place before they started doing all the things that they've been doing, because they did not want to subject themselves to that churn and to those people leaving. At Side, we talk to Compass agents all the time who are looking to explore their options and then realize they really can't unless they're coming out of pocket for a whole lot of money, to a point where we've had to set up what I affectionately refer to as the Compass Emancipation Fund, where we're advancing agents money at no interest so they can pay Compass off and get out. But we don't have billions of dollars by which to do that. We have like tens of millions of dollars by which to do that. there's only so many people you can help.
Are the clawback policies the worst at Compass?
They're certainly the most institutionalized, programmatic, very much a science, and they're national in every single market. There's no such thing as a top producer today at Compass that does not have an incentive split. So in the past, where Compass would actually lay out cash and give an agent money to come into Compass, it made all the sense in the world that if they were going to leave, that they should give that money back. That's not how they do it today. Today they're like, oh, you're in an 80-20 split where we're going to give you a 5% rebate on that split, and if ever you leave, you owe us that 5% back in perpetuity. So if you're a $1 million gross commission income producing agent and you're at Compass for 3 years subject to a 5% clawback,
Right.
that's $150,000 if you want to go to Douglas Elliman.
Right.
Right? So like, how many of those checks, Michael, are you willing to write? If there's 100 Compass agents that have that kind of a
Case by case, but it depends on the agent.
case by case, but that's like
Yeah.
a $15 million thing you have to write for 100 agents, right? It's quite, I mean, it's quite prohibitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and Guy, you know, you're putting yourself out there when you bring on a new brokerage, right? I mean, there's some provisions, doesn't sound as severe, where, you know, in the first 2 years, what is it exactly
With Side?
With Side, yeah.
Oh, well, you know, because Side actually creates these brands
Right.
for agents from scratch in collaboration with them. We invest that money, that time, that intellectual property. We have a 2-year thing with agents whereby they actually earn out that brand and become the full owners of it. And then after that, they can fire us at will with no penalty at all whatsoever. If they want to fire us within a year, we'll ask them to make us whole
Got it.
for the cost that we put into creating all that branding. But that's a tangible relationship. And that's like a cost of tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands. Very, very different sort of
Right.
thing. Yeah.
Right. And Michael, what do the clawbacks look like at Elliman? Is there a general provision that you're typically dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we have obviously clawbacks and cram downs as well. So, I mean, you have to, right? You can't basically put
Yeah.
all that energy and effort and dollars into the agent when they come on and not have that ability to do it. So,
Yeah, makes sense. So, you know, for Compass and the Anywhere deal, Compass is taking on $2.8 billion in debt, like we were talking about. Said it's going to do that with, you know, efficiencies and ancillary services, which seem to be the name of the game. And, you know, the biggest push, and Guy, you had some really interesting thoughts about this, is, you know, trying to take listings private, trying to splinter the residential real estate industry, trying to have, you know, just the listings on their site. So the questions are, you know, A, is that good for the consumer? B, Guy, you were talking about how that really promotes inexperienced agents, and which is also not
I have
good
a
for the
strong
consumer.
opinion about that.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Well, you know, not to make, this is a conversation about brokerage models and the proverbial brokerage wars. I would just say that I never look at other brokerages as competition for Side. Our competition is ourselves. It's the inertia that top agents and teams face because 20 years of being in industry has convinced them that they need somebody else's brand and that they can't be great entirely on their own. That's what we compete with. So I come at this objectively as much as that is possible to do, given we're all in this industry together. But from my point of view, and the evidence is really apparent, if you look at brokerage for the last 100 years, if you're a brokerage, your incentive is much more so that you have 1,000 agents, for example, in an office, each closing one deal a year at a 50% split, than having 100 agents at the same office closing 10 deals a year at a 20% split, because it's the same number of deals, but if they're distributed across more agents, you as the brokerage actually make a whole lot more money. Pre-internet, that took the form of floor time, yes? So you as a listing agent would bring a great property to market, somebody would see that, walk into the Coldwell Banker office, say I want to look at it, and you'd be assigned an agent who was part-time, maybe doing 1 or 2 or 3 deals a year, which is how 70% of transactions nationally are done today, by agents doing less than 3 deals a year every single year. You'd be assigned to that agent, not to the agent who brought the listing to market. When you look at what brokerages are doing today, particularly with private exclusives, that is nothing more than a scheme to steer the buy side away from the top producers who bring listings to market to part-timers who will pay a much more favorable split into the brokerage on that side of the transaction. So it doesn't serve the committed, devoted, professional, full-time agent. And in my opinion, if you as a brokerage are not serving that particular person with your work and your model, then you're in this quantity game that's designed more to serve your own bottom line than it is to serve communities or agents or consumers.
Yeah. Compass controls the listings, and it behooves them to have less experienced agents because they make more money on the splits.
And inherently, top producers realize this, which is why a year after Private Exclusives has launched, it's got less than 50% inventory than 12 months ago. It's just not clicking.
Yeah, yeah. Michael, do you agree with that premise that Guy has about experienced agents?
It's accurate. There's no doubt about it in private listings.
And I should have asked this in the beginning. How many people in the audience are residential brokers?
Oh, hey, hi.
All right, so
my people.
80, 90%. Good. I mean, this stuff obviously directly impacts you guys. And I mean, the big picture here is Robert Revkin and Compass are playing a 15-year, 20-year game to take over residential real estate, right, and control everything.
I think it's more simplistic than that. Rob Revkin and Compass raised their last round of private capital at a $10 billion valuation from SoftBank, which is largely Saudi Arabian money. And ever since their IPO, they've been doing everything in their power to claw their way to that valuation to be able to exit those investors at break even, and they're not even close.
Right.
So I don't see the merger with Anywhere as something that was particularly motivated by synergy or innovation, but more so from two mature companies with nowhere left to go that were desperate to increase market cap. Anywhere because they couldn't service their debt, and they were quietly, allegedly, shopping Sotheby's for $1 billion price tag just to be able to service it.
Right.
Like the way they sold their relocation business. And Compass, of course, bought ad properties last year for nearly $500 million, and their stock went down, not up. So it's a 1 + 1 = 2 scenario. It's about integration, not innovation. It's not a 1 + 1 = 10. And that's where it's a bit of a question mark, but the motivation is very obvious to me, which is they've got to clear a certain enterprise value to exit existing investors. It's not rocket science, it's not mysterious.
I mean, it's just crazy that this has been 15 years at this point? Just as capital markets entering the brokerage world and just creating this wave of whatever it is.
Well, the great American innovation that basically 99% of American innovation that happens outside of Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area, which is where the technology innovation happens, is corporate, right? It's all about incorporation. It's entities. Like Anywhere used to be called Realogy, used to be called Sendin. Sendin was a company that owned Wyndham Hotels and Avis Rent-A-Car. And they raised billions of dollars in debt and then went out and said, oh, look, interesting cottage industry that we have here in real estate. Let's buy all these locals and independents and combine them. Coldwell Banker was an independent brokerage in San Francisco before it got distributed nationally as a franchise opportunity. But then, of course, that doesn't persist, doesn't endure. They sell off their Avis business, their Wyndham hotel business to refinance the company. They rebrand to Realogy. They rebrand. So I've long held that the future of Compass is Anywhere. Like for years, I've been saying this, and now, of course, like here we are. It's visible.
Yeah.
Listen, I think everything that Guy's saying shows why Douglas Elliman's such a great alternative for everybody. Don't you think?
Well,
he does a great job at it.
I
have agents out there.
If you're like a solo agent at Sotheby's doing $40 million a year on 10 transactions on an average price point of $4 million, like DE is way better for you because they're not some faceless corporation. They have people there that care, they serve really well, and they're one of a kind. They're an independent. Like I highly encourage you to have a conversation with them.
You're a good man.
Now say something nice about Guy.
And he's got a great business as well.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into the private listings thing from the Elliman front because, Michael, you've said you're going to offer private listings, but you don't want it to become the norm. which I get. Everybody's rolling out private listings platforms, but it's a weird situation to be in where you're like unveiling a product, but then you're like, well, don't use it too much.
No, not at all. I will tell you, we unveiled a product because I'm a firm believer that people are entitled to have choice, right?
Okay.
And if somebody basically wants to keep, I was in that when I had a house in New York. I didn't want my neighbors knowing that I was moving. I didn't want people tracing through my house. And I had them put it out. This is a long time ago. And I had the broker. I told them about it. And that's really what I wanted. And then ultimately the house didn't sell and we listed it and I dealt with all the aspects of the sale that I kind of didn't want to. But I think you've got to give choice. Do I think, if you ask me as a professional, if 4,000 people hear about your house for sale or 40, you're probably going to get a higher price.
Yeah,
okay? That's just fact.
Right.
Okay,
so it's more like it's a choice. You're not pushing people towards it.
Yeah, but the buyers sometimes think they're getting a better deal because it's private, and the seller sometimes thinks they're getting a higher price because it's private. I think you got to just educate them on what the realities are, and maybe that happens.
The difference with DE's approach is that it's not a scheme. It's not a scheme that's designed to actually steer business to part-timers away from great agents, because virtually all the agents at DE are great. So that's not an issue that they face, right? The thing with exclusives that's odd to me, like, on average nationally, about 3% of sales close off market. People that sell off market have a genuine and sincere need to sell off market, and they've been able to do that for 100 years without a problem. It's not like anything was particularly broken there. People that want to sell off market would never do private exclusive because that's too public. It's on the internet. It's subject to the eyes of thousands of agents. Right? So it's not serving that particular segment. It is trying to convince the average seller who wants to bring a home to market publicly, quickly, and sell it for top dollar with as much bidding activity and dynamics as is possible, to withhold it for 2 to 4 weeks for no other reason than to serve somebody else's needs, not the seller's. So call me cynical, I like to think of it more as objective. I think that's the reason why, in spite of tens of millions of dollars in investment, a year's worth of work, all this communications, marketing, PR, a lawsuit with Zillow, which is the last company in the world you want to enter into a lawsuit with, if that's the hill you've got to get to be successful. And inventory for private exclusives is down 50%. It's not encouraging.
Yeah, it's just fundamentally hard, I agree, to make the premise that transparency is not good for properties that you're selling in general. The most eyeballs, right? I mean, private, a whole nother bag.
Anybody who's trying to reinvent the physics or revisit the physics of supply and demand in America is climbing an uphill battle.
So, but then again, they might be successful. They have 30% market share in markets. Do you think the alarm bells of monopoly get raised at some point, and when would that be?
I would say no to that, Michael. You probably have a better point of view, but real estate in general, real estate brokerage, the companies are so small from a market cap perspective, nobody really cares. Like capital, like investors, hedge funds, regulatory bodies, they don't see the Anywhere Compass thing as much of anything, because at the end of the day, it's still going to be a small cap type of company with maybe 20% national share of inventory, in some markets more than that. It's not 75%, it's not 80%. That maybe would get some more scrutiny. If they were $100 billion valued companies, maybe that would get more scrutiny, but this is not like Facebook buying Instagram. This is not it.
And I want to touch on something else about inexperienced versus experienced agents. I mean, it's ironic in a way, and Guy, you were highlighting this, that the NAR landmark settlement over buyer's agreements, kind of a result of NAR's screwing up, has led to more professional in the industry. Because
the commission
is more serious for buyer's agents.
Funny, I actually got an email from one of the people at NAR that wanted to speak to me. I'm like, what the hell would I waste my time? I actually said I want the agenda before I get on the phone. Why would I really waste my time having this conversation?
I did spend the time doing it. I'll tell you this, NAR can seem from a distance like some bureaucratic, ill-intentioned group. They are very well-intentioned. For the $156 that the agents in this room pay a year to NAR, you're getting more than your value's worth. They might be somewhat impotent at this point in time. They definitely screwed up the commissions, no question about it. it screams to me reform, not wholesale,
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah, listen, I think with, not a lot of time left, I think the takeaway, right, from this panel, I think is real. And the takeaway is that there are a lot of alternatives if you're an agent in the brokerage business, right? You could have a great brand, which is what we are, doing a lot of things we're doing. You could have Guy's model, which is a, pure, you build your own brand. And I think the rest of the market, there's not much left.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at the Anywhere and Compass merger, basically really shrunk the options for an agent. And I think there are few great alternatives. And I think you got to stick with the, tried and true institutionalized businesses that are going to have a lot of staying power.
Yeah. I just want to remind.
You do have 5 more minutes. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
The clock is wrong.
I just want to remind I'll say 2 things. One, I want to remind all the agents in this room, because it's so easy for you to lose sight of this, because you spend a whole career being indoctrinated and institutionalized to believe the complete opposite. But the truth at the end of the day is that you're the value creator in this industry. You wake up every morning, you connect invisible dots, you're putting up your own time, your own money, your own opportunity, you're taking all the damn risk, and you are the ones that make it happen. And then you do a favor to all these other companies by slapping their logo on top of your name. But it's you that's doing them the favor, not the other way around. You could take that business anywhere, Douglas Elliman, whatever, your own brand, and you would do as well, if not better. You are the value creators. Don't lose sight of that. Don't let anybody tell you different.
And also where you put your money for dues for lobbying efforts. Mauricio Umansky was talking this morning, with the American Real Estate Association, ARA, that's the new group. Douglas Elliman signed on. They're trying to make a push. I think they went from, to 20,000 members after, your 6,000 members joined on. They're trying to get to 100,000 in the next couple months.
Yeah, we're solidly behind it. I'm on the board. And
No, it makes sense. And he was saying he's reaching out to NAR because you guys are obviously an alternative, but are, as he said, and I'm curious your point of view, willing to work with NAR, but he really hasn't gotten a response from them after multiple efforts of trying. So that's kind of interesting.
I just want my money back from the settlement.
Yeah.
We paid off all our debts, and now I would love to have that cash in the bank.
We did have to subsidize the NAR settlement in a way we weren't expecting to, which sucked. No question about it. I did ask them for $39 million back, and I asked the CEO, and she looked at me sideways, so I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. But, okay.
I just think the branding of real estate, too, besides the organizational challenges of NAR, it's like, they're still stuck in like white picket fence 1970s branding. Like it's got to be updated somehow. It's the wrong message.
I for one just look. I think NAR does really important advocacy work. Maybe this new association will do the same, but they make an impact. They do. It's like a baby in bathwater situation from my point of view. But I will say this, that even though it costs Douglas Elliman, Side, other major brokerages in this country a whole lot of money to settle the commission lawsuits are a gift. The settlement, it's a gift to this industry. It is going to have, it's already had, but it will continue to, the greatest impact of any singular thing on professional standards in real estate. Because just a year ago, you had 1 million agents out there that are averaging 3 closings a year, pitching buyers. It's free and no obligation. And that's how they were getting deals done with actual buyers. They can't do that anymore because now they actually have to get people signed on a line that is dotted. And that's putting a lot of the larger brokerages at risk because so much of their revenue and their income and their profits depend on those part-time agents at very favorable splits to the house. So that is a gift to top producers because top producers get people to sign things all the time. So if you're a top producing agent, and assume if you're a full-time agent, this is what you do for a living, you're devoted and an expert, the commission lawsuits are and will continue to be a gift to you.
I have 2 more questions, and I'd be remiss if I didn't address this one. This is like a piece of bad news from a year ago. You guys both have a connection with the Alexander brothers, obviously.
Who?
You've heard of them. They've been on stage here. So, I mean, is that, they were side brokers, and obviously they were Elliman before that, and, Howard Lorber stepped down, and Michael came on board. You might not have been CEO of Elliman, save for the Alexander brothers and Guy, I want to ask you, has it changed how you do due diligence on who you're partnering with?
I mean, we've introduced criminal background checks, but I don't think that would have caught anything. Frankly, when I met the brothers, they were engaged. I maybe knew a different version of them. We helped them create their own company in conjunction with a few other partners of theirs that was doing really great and really well. And upon news of the allegations, it took us 24 hours to disassociate our relationship with them. In spite of the fact that they were allegations, it just was the right thing to do. So I don't have much more of a comment on that than it's obviously an incredible thing, an incredibly horrible thing for all of the alleged victims. Their trial starts in January. Everything will become clear. I am surprised the Real Deal isn't covering their lawsuit against the Real Deal at all whatsoever.
Yes, the real
because
other publications.
You guys covered the actual allegations every day for like a year and a half.
Yeah, other publications have been covering it, including the Journal wrote about it. But the Alexanders are suing the Real Deal over reporting on the lawsuit that happened, and it's very frivolous because we have every right to report any lawsuit that happens. But they will have their day in court, and obviously that's what a jury trial is for, to see these allegations against them, and that's what the justice system is for. Michael, any takeaways at Elliman? You had to come in after all that stuff happening, and and has it changed your mind about doing due diligence on employees and all that stuff?
Listen, they left, 5 years before I got there, so I had, no exposure to that. But listen, in life, I think there's always a lesson in everything, right? And you really got to make sure that you try and associate with the best people you can, and sometimes you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? We could all basically be sitting with someone, think they're the greatest person in the world, and then they walk out and you're like, who was that, right? People are married to someone for 30 years and they're like, oh my God, I really thought I knew that person. So I think that's just part of life.
It's about what you do.
It's
about what you do once you do know, right? That's what it's really about. Once you know, what do you do? What choices do you make? How do you react?
Yeah. Well, I want to end on a more positive note. We've been talking earlier today about the Mamdani election and what that means for New York and South Florida. South Florida is going to benefit, I'm sure.
Go South Florida.
And it's good for Elliman, too. Michael's based down here. Yes, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about Mamdani and what that means for Florida.
Listen, I think New York will survive, right? New York has been through a lot. I think, I'm really not a political person. I'm a very socially liberal person, but I'm also economically conservative. So he definitely does not fit my capitalistic views. I think New York will make it through. I think it's unfortunate that he won. I think it'll make it a little bit harder on the atmosphere in New York. I don't think it's going to be a big boon to Miami. I think Miami will pick up, some gains, but I think Miami's going to pick them up anyway. But I think New York will make it through. I think, maybe there'll be more transactions and opportunities. And I think as an agent, you've got to look at everything as an opportunity, right? So there's an opportunity for our Florida business, our Texas business, and there's an opportunity for potentially more transactions in New York. And maybe there are better deals now that you could grab, and you speak to buyers and go after those deals right now. So there's always an opportunity.
And I think what's cool with Elliman, seems like you guys are launching a lot of the new stuff for Elliman down here now, like the AI was launched down here, your AI tool, your mortgage arm. Traditionally that would have been New York, but now there's this bigger.
Listen, we have 106 new development projects, all over the country. We're doing some internationally now. The mortgage business we launched in Florida. We're going to launch it nationally. The AI product we launched in Florida. We're going to launch it nationally. So there's a lot to do. I'm not as negative. I wish Mamdani didn't win. Don't get me wrong, but I think New York will be fine. I think there's still going to be great opportunities. I think there's probably bargains you can get over the next X amount of time, and we're going to take advantage of those opportunities. And the opportunities is also, like we've been talking about, the competitive landscape for us is a huge opportunity.
Yeah. And Guy, you're from San Francisco, so you've seen the city.
He's been through it already.
Thank
you for the tee up. As someone who's been living in San Francisco nearly 15 years and has been subjected to Mamdanis for that length of time as mayors, and now we have someone named Daniel Lurie as mayor, who's just a pragmatic, practical, well-intentioned human being who in 6 months in the position has transformed the city. I will tell you this, is that no one person can do anything to an amazing city like San Francisco, let alone New York fucking city, that will hurt or damage it in an enduring way. So I would just say that, yeah, maybe the next 4 years will be a wake-up call and a good, and will lend great perspective to those who voted for that particular individual. But on the other end of it, it will flourish and endure in the same way San Francisco has. I would not lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, and maybe Mamdani will be more pragmatic than people fear.
Assume the worst, but
Yeah.
even in the worst case, it's going to be fine.
Yeah. So in any event, it benefits South Florida, and I want to thank these guys for coming out today.
Thank
Thanks,
you all.
Michael. Thanks,
Thank
Guy.
you.
Thanks, everybody.